one of the first things that awakening taught me, in a very, my path to awakening taught me to, first of all, to make sure I was focused on the most important thing. And once I'd kind of figured out that the most important thing was to find out what I am really, rather than assuming I know, the most important thing then became remembering to stay focused on that when there is a whole world of distractions inside and outside, distractions from this most important work. And it is essential then that perhaps we take another look at what the most important thing is and what we actually are in this satsang tonight, to stay focused, to see clearer. Because most people seem to reach I know I did reach a certain point in their seeing. We may have a seeing that we are not a separate being, or we may come to that realization somehow. But however deep that seeing has gone, I'm always saying the same thing, that it can go further. And if we are suffering at all still in any way, then that seeing has yet to fully permeate all of our being. And it may not be the most glamorous of work, but it is the most important work to be consistent. Most of us right now could even say that they have seen to some degree what had a small seeing of the awareness, of the silence, of the consciousness, the beingness, the self. We use this word noumenon also, really what we are, that isn't a form, that isn't a shape. But if we have seen that and we are still suffering, then we haven't seen it clearly enough. And I want to encourage us to go back and look at this again and again and again. It certainly was the greatest lesson for me, that if I thought I had seen and I was still suffering, then I hadn't seen fully. As human beings, we are conditioned to think of ourselves as an object, as a thing with a definable boundary that separates us from everything else. And while this may be true for our body, it most certainly isn't true for us. But even when we've seen that it's not true once or twice or 10 times, when we've actually experienced that to some degree, we still go back into illusion. We still begin to suffer, and it may not have hit us fully the impact of what it means, the fullest meaning of what it actually means, that we can't find a separate being when we look. So I want to do some of that, some looking with you tonight, and I would encourage you to follow along as best you can. And just the looking itself is most important. So right now, if I ask you, are you aware? Is there awareness? Something inside checks and looks, something about you checks to see if awareness is present. And you can hear these words through your ears. You can see what your eyes are seeing. You know what your eyes are seeing. If a thought popped up in your mind, or an emotion surfaced, or you suddenly got a pain in your stomach or an itch on your arm, there's awareness of those things instantaneously. And we take this awareness for granted. All of us do. But it's the one constant thing about us. I'm going to call this essence of our being awareness tonight, but you can substitute any word that you like instead. As we move through our entire day, this awareness is aware of what our body's doing, what our mind is doing, what sensations are going on in the body, the stimuli around us, where our body's moving, everything. Awareness is recognizing all of this. And yet, how much attention do we actually place upon that awareness, as opposed to how much attention goes to what we're aware of? I'm aware of my thoughts. I'm aware of the way my body feels. I'm aware it's hungry, or it's cold, or it's restless. I'm aware it's raining or it's sunny. I'm aware this person is irritating me, or I like this person. On and on it goes. Over and over again, attention is pulled away from the awareness and to what we are aware of. And what if right there we have overlooked the hidden gem that seems to be hidden, the infinite being? What if it is right there, appearing as awareness, as something obvious, perhaps even unimportant? When we first recognize that we're aware, it can seem to be very, very unimportant. It can seem to be extraordinarily dull. In fact, it was for me when I first recognized it. There was a sense for me that, so what? It's awareness. It's nothing special. Had it forever. And it would be so easy to overlook that, especially when everything is pulling our attention outwards or inwards to thoughts and emotions and experiences, sensations, outwards to other beings and things going on in our environment. But what if right there we are missing the extraordinary, infinite self that we are because we've just labeled it as awareness? What if we are seeing this beautiful, infinite nature of our being, and yet still somehow giving it the qualities of being a thing or an object? It's my awareness, we say, as if it's something that belongs to us. Or we say, I am aware of this other thing, as if there is something other than awareness. And if we are finding ourselves like this, then really all we need to do is to really take another look at this awareness. So right now, this awareness that you have, you're aware of these words. Let's take another look. Where is the awareness? And what is it? Is it a thing? Is it an object? You know, my hand is an object. The laptop that I'm using to record this, to broadcast this and record, is also a thing. It has a size and a shape. And the flowers behind me have a shape. The Buddha statue. Everything that we can see, that we can be aware of, a thought inside, an emotion, has a kind of a subtle form or shape, doesn't it? What about the awareness itself? Is it a thing like that? Is it a subtle thing? And time again, we'll come up against this assumption that it seems to be, my awareness seems to be localized only. It's only in this one place. Most of us start off with the assumption that it's just in my body, or it's in my head, or it's as big as my body, the awareness, my awareness. And even we may assume to start off that there is a place that my awareness stops. And if there was somebody sitting next to me, their awareness would start. But can this really be so? If we really look, even if it feels like it's only here, let's just disregard that feeling for the moment and look anyway. Let's have a real look at awareness. You know when a thought arises. Where is that knower? Where is it? And where isn't it? Can you really say, let's look now. Can you really say where you are and where you aren't? Or where awareness is? If awareness is not a thing, not an object, can there be a you and it? There can be a you and awareness if those are both things. Objects. You can have two objects. Me and the self. Me and awareness. And I'm here and I'm trying to get to the self, the awareness. But does that still hold up if we look at the awareness? Just search your awareness now. You're aware of these words. You know what your ears are hearing. What is that awareness? Is it a thing? And the thing that's going to rob us of our peace is this assumption that we know it, we've seen it, we know what awareness is. But if we're suffering at all and imagining other beings and other things inside our body, our being, or outside, if we're even still imagining an inside and an outside, we haven't really seen the fullness and let that hit us. Let's have a look at that now again. And I know I'm making you work a little bit here, but this is the most important work. What does it mean if you can't find where awareness stops? It seems to only be in and around your body. But can you prove that? If that was true, awareness is a thing, a subtle thing, that you are a separate being, you should be able to prove it beyond a feeling, a sense. And when we really look, we can't find where our awareness stops. And this my awareness really begins to turn into there's only awareness. Can there be a you and it? Can there be you and awareness? Really look and see if awareness is not a thing, if awareness is more like the space in this room. Can there be a you and it? If it doesn't have any edges, awareness, if it's shapeless, formless, empty of substance, more like intelligent space, aware space of being, where does it stop? How far from your body in all directions does it go? Is it limited at all? How big is it? You cannot find an edge to something that is not a thing. So important to look again with me to not to overlook what seems ordinary. What starts off when we look, it seems normal and ordinary. When we look like this again and again, we realize it's something extraordinary, that we are something extraordinary. If I had £1 for every time someone had said to me, I know I'm not a thing, but, and when they say that, I know that they haven't really seen the full impact of this. What does it mean that awareness isn't a thing, isn't an object? What does that mean? Where is your awareness? Where does it stop? Does it have any limitations upon it? Is there really such a thing as your awareness if it doesn't have an edge? Is there really such a thing as my awareness? If we were sat in a room together, two bodies in the room together, as hopefully we may be allowed to one day, where would there be the dividing line between my awareness and yours? Does that really exist? It seems to. It seems to. But what if this entire web of suffering that we have going on is sustained by this one assumption? I'm here and you're over there. And just for wanting to check this out clearer and clearer, you must come intelligently to look again and again at what seems obvious and already seen, and let that impact hit us. What does it mean for you if awareness, you have awareness or you are awareness? There's a huge difference in the experience of that. Is there a you and awareness when you really look? Can you find a being, a separate being in the awareness? It's insubstantial awareness, isn't it? You can't grab it. It's not over here or over there. You can't say it's more present over here and less over there. When we look at what we think of awareness, we might find that we're still treating it as if it's a thing, as if it's an object. But if it is here, awareness is present, and we can check this out. Am I aware right now? Yes, I am. Something checks and notices this formless awareness is here already. Something already knows when you look. What does it mean if awareness has no edges? Have you let that really, really hit you? Have you let that really penetrate the heart of your being? Awareness is actually infinite. There is only one awareness, and it is everywhere that it can be. And it's also making all of these shapes inside itself too. And it's the most obvious thing when we see it, that it's everywhere, and yet it is also the most obviously overlooked. I know this myself time and time again. I would look and see that I am not a thing. I am not an object. I am subjectivity itself. I am experiencing with no experiencer. And yet still I would imagine for a long time that there were other beings still, that there were other things outside of me, separate to me. Again, reducing myself back down to a thing. My body's a thing. My thoughts are things. My experiences are things. But what am I in that? Can I really say that I have an edge or a boundary? And what does that mean then? And those that come to freedom and peace will keep bringing themselves back every time we find that we're suffering again, imagining other, imagining else, imagining separation. We'll come back to this seeing, and we'll check again and again each time. This is a very direct path. Every time I find myself imagining something or someone outside of me, I can come back and check out, where does my awareness stop? Where does my being stop? How many of us are there really here in this satsang? There are a certain number of bodies, but how many beings? Has it really hit you? Has it impacted you what it means if you don't have an edge? And if it hasn't, if you don't, if you still feel like a separate being, if you still imagine other and you're suffering, there will always be a sense of being a separate being, and it's thoughts going on in the head and emotions in a body, and sense perception gives a sense of I am only here. But we can also come to recognize our everywhereness. And if we haven't recognized that we're everywhere and we aren't living from that, then it's always and only because we're treating awareness, consciousness, the self, noumenon, beingness, as an object still. The very moment I conceive of myself to be an object, a thing with a location, even a subtle thing like a separate being, the very moment I imagine that and don't investigate, a whole universe of other beings are born. In my imagination, of course, only, nowhere else. But I will think about these other beings and these other things that are outside of me, and I will go into interaction and relationship with them. And some of them I'll be scared of, and some of them I'll be trying to get. And I'll have all these responses going on inside, causing all of this suffering, when really there's only the one. So if you find yourself feeling that you don't feel the oneness of your being, you don't feel so much that you're everywhere, that isn't a knowing, then I would urge you to look and check. Are you still thinking of yourself? We may see clearly in a moment of inquiry like this, I don't have any edges. I don't know where I stop, where I end. I can't say that there is anyone else than me. But then we go back later out of habit to this idea of otherness, separation. And if you've had enough of suffering, I would urge you to come back to this seeing again and again. Every time I imagined something other than me, I began to suffer, and I would come back and check this out. Is there really me and other? Is there me and awareness? Do I have to get to awareness? Do I even have to merge into the self, awareness? Are any of those things still my work? Do I have to let go of my sense of separate self if that awareness and me are not separate, not different? Is there really two? Any object would just be floating around. Any sense of a separate being is just floating around inside the infinite space of your being. And your mind is not really going to get this. Your mind is going to have a hard time with this. But you can check it out. You can experience it, and that is enough. I don't know where I stop. I can't say for certain that my awareness stops anywhere. And as you look and look again, it'll become clearer as you break through this fog of illusion every time you look. A little bit more. There's something that isn't a thing, doesn't stop anywhere. It is that infinite space that everything is appearing in. So you must take charge of this seeing. Attention's going to drift back to imagination, imagining other beings and things that we are reacting and responding to. It doesn't mean we forsake the world or forget it, or that we don't have any relationships in our life or anything like that. It just means that we're experiencing everything from the real place. We're experiencing all these apparent other beings from the truth of our being, from a very empowered place where we can't suffer, where we can't get caught and lost in our thoughts. Our mind is so busy thinking about imaginary beings and things that it thinks are there. And we have to stand firm in looking at the awareness of the self. What actually is it? Is it a thing? And what does it mean if it's not a thing? Is it something I can get? Can I get enlightenment? Do I have to go to it even? Do I have to drop anything to find it? All of these are myths that you begin to see through. And there is this doorway, this portal, this opening when you notice that awareness is present. If we can resist the temptation to skip right on past awareness and go to what we're aware of, usually our thoughts, we must be at least as interested in what the awareness is and what it is not as we are in our thoughts and our experiences. There's nothing wrong with thoughts and experiences, of course, but most of us end up in satsang because we are tired of experiencing life only through the lens of separation. And we want to come out of that in the fastest way possible. So this is one thing that's with us all the time, and it is awareness, and yet we constantly overlook it. We constantly take our consciousness for granted. You might notice it momentarily in the morning, I'm conscious, and then immediately attention's gone to what we're conscious of. So just fostering this habit to bring attention back to awareness, as we're calling it here, self-consciousness. And proving to yourself again and again that you cannot find an edge, that there is no boundary where your being ends and where the next one starts, the next person starts. It really isn't like that in reality. And although that may seem very, very strange, our powerful agreement with this idea that we are a thing, an object, rather than the pure subjectivity of awareness that isn't anything substantial at all, is sustaining all of our suffering, is the root of all human pain. And it can be the most simplest thing to come out of it if we do this consistently. Just to even recognize that there must be more. I must need convincing more that I am not a thing if I'm still suffering. Let me prove it to myself again. My body, my thoughts, all of that, I can see them, they're definable. But am I a thing when I look? Or the awareness, is that a thing? Is it actually something I can pin it down and say, yes, it stops about 3 feet from my body across the room there. There's a imaginary line where I stop. There's a boundary where I stop. Is that really how it is? And what does it mean if it isn't like that? It's vital to stay interested in this, to stay in the recognition of this, to bring your attention back over and over again until it's clear. And when you've seen it for yourself, you'll be asked to see it in your relationships. Is there still 2 beings in this relationship, in this marriage, in this parent and child relationship, in this boss and employee relationship? Is there still money and me? Is there still time and me? Is there still peace that I'm trying to get and me? Can there really be 2 things? You'll be asked to apply it to your life.